We're going to have a full breakdown of day one of Chicago Bears minicamp, the takeaways from Ben Johnson, as Ben Johnson's left a lot to think about in regards to his comments on Caleb Williams and the growth that he needs to see in year 3 for Caleb, Colston Loveland, and how consistent Colston Loveland is going to be next season for the Chicago Bears. And is Jaylon Johnson looking back like his Pro Bowl version of himself? It seems like it, according to some. So we're going to talk about all those things and more and the takeaways from first day of Chicago Bears minicamp. We're going to get into all that right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, hey, before we get into the content, though, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We got a goal of getting to 30,000 subscribers by the start of the 2026 NFL season. We are a little under 5,000 away from that, but looking at our analytics, there's about 45% of you guys that watch the channel every single day but aren't subscribed. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I know we post every single day, and it may feel like you're subscribed to the channel, but go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, hit that subscribe button. But let's get into it. I want to say before we get into anything else, do not overreact to minicamp. Right? I don't want anybody to overreact to what we're hearing from minicamp, the good and the bad, right? Like, it's sometimes people say don't overreact, and what they really mean is don't overreact to the bad things, but get all overly excited about the good things. I'm not saying that either. Don't overreact to the good or the bad. I like to always paint it as this. For this type of thing, you really won't know until the pads are on. Some people will remember, it was like 2 or 3 years ago, we had heard that the offensive line was so improved and the offensive line was getting the best of the defensive line. And then we had one of our worst performances of the offensive line ever in Caleb Williams. I think that was Caleb Williams' rookie year. So I don't overreact to it, right? I think you got to wait till the pads are on. I've always said OTAs are made better for the skill position. Minicamp, that's when you're going to start hearing more about the defenders. You up it a little bit, but till you're in full training camp with the pads on, just don't overreact to anything. But we're going to get into the details as they were reported from Chicago Bears minicamp. And the first one is that Caleb Williams, I almost said Wilson because I've been covering the Bulls a lot. Caleb Williams had a little bit of a rougher day yesterday. Not padded practices. This is just reps. It's about timing. It's about communication and installing what you're trying to do. And Caleb reportedly made some very nice throws, but missed some explosive plays to Colston Loveland specifically in yesterday's practice. He did throw 2 interceptions as well to Jaylon Johnson. I think that says a lot about where the timing of Jaylon Johnson is. There's some miscommunication in one of those interceptions with Kalif Raymond. Keep in mind, Kalif Raymond, while not necessarily new to Ben Johnson's system, he is new to this team. And Caleb Williams is a player that you kind of got to work on that timing with and get those things down. So I think at this point, don't panic, watch patterns, but don't kind of overreact to things when it comes down to it. But to be honest, Caleb Williams had a rougher day. He had a really good 2 set of OTAs. He had a rougher day yesterday, and let's see how he bounce back and get to it. That timing and that communication, we've heard that he has a really good kind of understanding of the offense. We need to see it. And I think that, again, take it with what you're hearing, but let's just not overreact to it yet. We'll see what's going to happen. Jaylon Johnson has looked really good reportedly in practice. Clay Harbor specifically mentioning that he looks back like Pro Bowl Jaylon Johnson. Again, not my words. It's minicamp, so we're not going to overreact to it, but it is a good step for Jaylon Johnson to be as injured as what he was last season. Not consistent, right? When he was on the football field, even when he did get back in the games, he still wasn't playing because of that groin injury, and that does take a little bit of time, right? But it seems that it looks right now he covered well. He played really good throughout the session, which is good. If Jaylon Johnson really is back healthy and is back looking like Pro Bowl Jaylon Johnson, it's going to help take this defense to another step. That's just the reality of it. It's going to help him take it to another step. Jaylon Johnson being able to return and be himself and a fully healthy and engaged version of himself, it paired with the new safeties. Listen, it's going to be a fun thing to watch. This team in the secondary, like defensive backs are so important to what Dennis Allen wants to do. when you have those guys all locked in and what they need and how they need to perform and, building that chemistry together, that's where things could really make and hopefully go to the next step for the Chicago Bears. So it's really good to have and hear that Jaylon Johnson is at least back healthy. He's on the football field. He's engaged. He's looking really good. The timing is there. And again, it's about the patterns that we're seeing. And so those patterns, if we keep building that throughout this offseason before, even preseason starts, then Jaylon Johnson has a pretty good chance to get back to that Jaylon Johnson that we're going to need to make a really big impact for the Chicago Bears in 2026. Also, Kalif Raymond and Zavion Thomas both flashed. Like, this is important. The Bears wide receiver room is already deep. Having, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, and even Colston Loveland, kind of include him in there because he's going to be such a big part, is already deep enough. If you get Zavion Thomas, Jahade Walker, Kalif Raymond all going, and being able to bring something, I do think, they're going to have to split some snaps, potentially there. But if they're all able to go, what does that do? That opens up the packages, that opens up the different looks that you can throw out, right? So reportedly, Kalif Raymond flashed the burst of speed and his ability to run routes and the quickness that he runs those routes on. That's going to be important for Caleb Williams, as we want him to make those quicker decisions. So you want guys that can get into those routes quickly. Zavion Thomas, we've heard it through OTAs throughout here. It's been a pretty consistent thing. That speed is real, but it's not just about the speed. We knew the motherfucker was fast. Like, that's not even something that, like, I'm not gonna gas the fact that he's fast. You run a 4.2 40. We know the motherfucker is fast, but it's the playmaking ability there. And I always said with Zavion Thomas, if he wants to have a role in year one as a rookie, he's going to have to show himself more than just speed. He's going to have to show himself to be a legitimate weapon when you get him the ball. And it's up to Ben Johnson to find the different ways. And that's where the gadget player part comes in of it, right? Is that you can get him the ball in a multitude of ways. You can put him in the backfield. You can have him be a wide receiver, right? You're going to put him on special teams. And so that we reportedly, Zavion Thomas scored on a quick screen where he showed that speed. And so when you look at the layers that you could potentially have with this offense, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, I didn't even mention DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai, Zavion Thomas, Kalif Raymond. I keep saying it. This Bears offense is going to have the weapons that it needs. And that is the biggest thing, is you're going to have the weapons that it needs. And it puts you in a spot where, listen, Caleb should welcome being in this spot. You have an embarrassment of riches as a quarterback here for the Chicago Bears. Right now, there are some questions on how the offensive line is going to perform with Braxton Jones coming back, the change of center, all that type of stuff. But, Caleb and Ben Johnson have everything that they need at their disposal. It's about how you use it, how you execute. And that is going to have to be a thing that we watch very early for this team. Once the pads are on, once you get to joint practices, when you get into preseason games, for me, it's all about watching and looking at the execution piece, right? Because we know we got talent. How does that talent execute? How does Caleb Williams execute with that talent? If we want to make that step to be a truly elite offense this year, it's going to have to come with that one. So hearing that Kalif Raymond, Zavion Thomas, two guys that are going to split those wide receiver 3 duties, are looking really good and making their presence known, that's a really good thing as well. And then also Colston Loveland. We got to talk about Colston Loveland because we got a quote from Ben Johnson in regards to Colston Loveland. And I think perfectly, one of the questions that I presented this offseason, when me, Bobby, and C-Dub put together, our preseason things and like some of the questions that we had ahead for this Bears team, one of that is how are you going to replace the consistency of DJ Moore, right? Like I said, DJ Moore didn't have the biggest statistical season here, but he was always consistent. Always somebody that whenever you called on his number, you could trust that he was going to make a play. If you didn't go to him early, you know he's going to still be ready to go. He's always ready, always healthy, those type of things. Ben Johnson said this in regards to Colston Loveland. He says this: he's one of the most consistent players I've ever been around. And that's saying a lot. I'm really happy with where he is right now. We're able to take the route tree to the next level. So two things there. The consistency part, because you need a consistent threat. And when your tight end is one of the most consistent weapons on your team, and you're as versatile as Colston Loveland is, because he's going to line up as a tight end, he's going to line up as a slot sometimes, those are things that add so much depth alone to your team. But then you're taking his route trees. Keep in mind, Colston Loveland may be the best route runner on this team. It's him and Luther Burden. As far as pure route running, it's Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. They are the best route runners on this team. So if you're already taking somebody who is one of your better route runners and you're saying, all right, cool, we are so confident in how he came into camp, what we saw last season, that we're now taking that route tree to the next level, man, that could get very dangerous. And like I've said it before, and I know people think like, damn, Haize, you're putting a lot on this kid early on. I really think Colston Loveland has the potential. I won't say yet. I won't start saying for sure things into maybe year 3 or year 4, but Colston Loveland has the potential this season to be, and he was already close to it last season, a top 5 tight end producer this season, right? And keep in mind what the numbers that Colston Loveland had, where he wasn't even really involved as a big part of the offense for the first month of the season. So you talk about Colston Loveland and the production that he's able to have, that you're taking the route trees to the next level. You're going to line him up in advantageous positions to force mismatches for this team. That's the thing. That's what this offense is all going to be about this season. It's about how do you create those mismatches. So now when you look at the Bears' 3 passing attack, and I look at that, the main guys on that is Rome, Luther, and Loveland. Those are the 3 main passing attacks for the Chicago Bears. That's not to say Jahade Walker, Kalif Raymond, Zavion Thomas, even Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift out the backfield are also going to be threats. But the backbone of what you do as a passing offense is really going to start with those guys as the receiver and, of course, Caleb Williams as a guy throwing the passes. You get all of that together, and you get all of that on the same page. You get all of that rocking with your offensive line, providing the protection that it needs and the development that we need to see from Caleb. We'll get more into that in a second. I think that this team has the makings of a team that could be a truly elite offense this year, and we just got to see it get done in practice. Well, in practice, meaning that not in practice, but in practice once we see it in game, like in reality, say that. So, that's the thing that we're trying to see from this team, and we'll see if they're going to be able to get it done. I have a lot of faith in a lot of the players on this team because this is a team that's hungry. This is a team that's dedicated. This is a team that's motivated. I think this also is a team that enjoys each other and trusts their head coach. When those things all align, that's where you can start getting some special sauce. Now, we need the defense to be better than what it was last year. Those things start happening. I think we can be in a really good spot. But overall, the offense seems to be ready to make that next leap. And if they do that this season, we're not only going to be talking about exciting Chicago Bears football, we're going to be talking about a Chicago Bears football that can really hopefully get to that next level. And we just got to see it happen. But for what that's worth, Ben Johnson talked about the standard that they want to set and what they want to accomplish in minicamp and then going into the season. Hey, you guys know I love the way that Ben Johnson talks. I love having quotes from Ben Johnson because he is so passionate, and you have a head coach that legitimately gives a shit about football. Like, this motherfucker lives and breathes football. He'll run through a wall just as much as the players will. So Ben Johnson said this. This is coming from Chris Emma, a quote in the conversation with Ben Johnson. He said this: "We've made significant strides there. We continue to get better with our practice habits and what it looks like. Pursuit on defense, finish on offense, all the fundamentals. Block after catch, maximizing on run after catch, looking to emphasize takeaways and ball security on offense. It's been a good back and forth." I mean, that's the cool thing. When you watch it through 6 practices so far in OTAs and seeing the offense have the upper hand sometimes and the defense having the upper hand sometimes too, there's a good back and forth going on right now. It's really healthy. Iron sharpens iron. That's the way that I take that. Your offense and your defense, that's who you're practicing against. You want them to sharpen each other up to that way when you get into the season, you've already seen tests. And that's one good thing for this defense. Like, the versatility that this offense is going to have, this defense should be prepared for anything. And and when they're opposing other teams, right? And so, it gives Dennis Allen an opportunity. And I've always said, Dennis Allen is as creative defensively as Ben Johnson is offensively. So these guys going up against each other, and you got talent on both sides of the ball, it's going to be that iron sharpens iron mentality. And the hope then is that once you get into the regular season against other teams, you've already thrown so many different looks at each other in practice that you can adjust on the fly to whatever other teams are doing and force adjustments the other way as well. The Bears undoubtedly took a step forward last season. We saw that happen in the first year under Ben Johnson, capturing the NFC North, winning the first playoff game in God knows how long, in over a decade, I think it was. Like, that's great. The relationship between Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson is one of those things that is the most important thing as well. And Ben Johnson said this: there's things that he looks to apply the next time we go to practice, and he does a good job of taking it. That showed up last year, and that continues to show up here in the spring. So the more our minds kind of think the same, I think we're better off in the long run. Your relationship between your play caller, your head coach, and the quarterback is hugely important. It just is. And I've always said that relationship between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and how they're extensions of each other, how they see the game the same way, how Ben Johnson can prepare for the things the way that Caleb Williams is going to see things and how that's going to adjust to what you do. One of the things that we've heard that is a big sign of that is that the Bears want to go more up-tempo this season naturally, right? And we've seen that dating back to Caleb Williams' rookie year. Thomas Brown noticed that. Like, Caleb Williams is better in an up-tempo offense. It helps kind of the things that he's working on. But Caleb has to be good outside of just that. The processing, all that things have to take the next step. And that's what it comes down to, right? And so, with all the stuff, the talk around Caleb, the promise around Caleb, all that type of stuff, it's there. But to get back to Ben Johnson overall, right now, Ben Johnson is setting a standard in minicamp, and hopefully that standard continues once the pads are on and we're in the regular season. You have to establish a culture, you have to have a standard. To get to what players know that they have to live up for, you have to have a standard in that locker room that everybody who walks through that door has to live up for. The coaching staff has to have a standard. The executives have to have a standard. The players have to have a standard. Everybody as an organization, if we want to turn the tides of where the Bears have been as an organization for the majority of my life, and probably most of the people that's watching this show as well, you have to set standards. And you can do this is where those things, the groundwork to those things get laid out on. And we're seeing the Bears really do that, right? Now, Ben Johnson was also asked a little bit of an interesting one about the NFL figuring out Caleb Williams, and if they're worried about the NFL figuring Caleb Williams out. And Ben Johnson had a very simple reply to this in that, right? And so when you look at like the history of it over the NFL, they figured out how to guard players like Robert Griffin, Jaden Daniels, right? And so the question is are they going to figure out Caleb Williams eventually too? And Johnson said this: he just needs to work on executing the play at hand. There's no secret sauce to defend a guy like that. And that goes to the thing with me that I say this. Caleb has to take the gimmies a little bit more, right? And that's a great thing. And I think Ben Johnson also saying this, the NFL, he said directly, the NFL can't figure out Caleb Williams. Now, to do that, it means you have to not only continue to be evolving, but we've seen the amazing plays that Caleb Williams is able to make. But that is not what makes a great quarterback, right? Because how many great plays are you going to make? Like a big time, like you're going to be able to, it's good that you have that tool in the bag. It's good that you have being an Iceman in the fourth quarter in your bag, but you have to be able to execute. That is the thing. Somebody that can execute no matter what defenses throw at them, that's what makes it hard to defend. Is the execution has to be on point. And there's just no doubt about it. The biggest knock on Caleb Williams has been what? The completion percentage. That is still what we have to see Caleb Williams get to. And that comes down to not being a magician. It comes down to execution and being able to take the gimmies and not overlooking that. And that's that's what you have to do when it comes down to. When you look at the best play designers in the league, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, like these are the guys that you look at as some of the best play designers in the NFL. Caleb Williams has to be somebody that is hard to do that. The biggest knock on Caleb Williams has been his completion percentage. 58.1% last year, despite the 3,952 yards and 27 touchdowns. You're able to get that completion percentage up to 65%, 62, 65% between that area. You're in a pretty good spot, right? If you get it up to 65%, you're in elite category. And I always look at Josh Allen. Now, just because Josh Allen was able to do it doesn't mean that Caleb Williams is going to be able to do it. Josh Allen is a different type of quarterback. Caleb Williams is trying to prove that he's a different type of quarterback. But Josh Allen went from 58 to, I think, 64, 65% when he made that third-year leap. Can Caleb Williams do something like that? Because I tell you what, that's where it gets really, really scary at. If you get a Caleb Williams with the things that we've seen him be able to do to put together a 65% completion percentage, that's where things get extremely dangerous at. And we've seen it happen, right? You look at like Saints rookie Tyler Show, like 67% of his passes he was able to complete, right? So I think the goal for Caleb Williams has to be realistically between 63 and 64%. If you can get any higher than that, you are in absolutely elite category. And you probably end up with 4,500 yards and 30 passing touchdowns if you're able to do that. So, we'll see if Caleb's able to make that next step. You have the weapons at your disposal. You have the coach that's going to design the play calls. You got the run game. You got the pass game. Your offensive line hopefully is going to be able to repeat what they did last year. If all those things come together, yeah, all eyes need to be on Caleb and how he legitimately makes that next step, because a Caleb Williams that makes that step turns this team into a legit contender, and he becomes a legit MVP candidate if he can do that. But nobody's going to crown you. You're not going to get it off potential. You're not going to get it off talk or the Madden cover or anything like that. And that's not me knocking my quarterback. That's just me being in reality. All that doesn't matter for the football field. The reason why I didn't spend a lot of time talking about the Madden cover, because ultimately, yeah, it's cool and it's great. And a shout out for the Bears being on the cover of Madden and getting to piss off Packer fans. But ultimately, everything that matters is on that field. That's everything that matters. If it's not on the field, in the grand scheme of life, what does it matter? You get the Madden cover, but your team wins 8 games. What did the Madden cover mean? It didn't mean shit, right? So what I want to see, Bears fans deserve to celebrate any good thing that comes our way because we haven't had a lot. But when you get through all that pomp and circumstance and all of that, what does it all have to come back to? It has to come back to the Chicago Bears being on the fucking football field and winning football games and proving all these haters, doubters, whatever you want to call them, wrong. And that's even some of you Bears fans as well. So let's see what the team can do this season. That's going to do it for today's episode. Let me know how encouraged are you here to hear that Jaylon Johnson is back looking like maybe Pro Bowl Jaylon Johnson. How concerned are you about hearing that Caleb Williams had a rough day? And overall, Kalif Raymond, Colston Loveland, Zavion Thomas, these guys all having really good offseason programs so far, both in OTAs and in the minicamp. I think things are looking like they can be in a pretty solid position for the Chicago Bears. But let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.